If you want a Gibson Les Paul Standard without paying Gibson's ridiculous price tag, this is the guitar you should be looking for. You can't buy this new anymore, so this is strictly a used market guitar, but there's a really specific reason why this one works so well. This is my 2013 Gibson Les Paul Traditional, and in a lot of ways, it's basically a Les Paul Standard by today's definition. Back in 2013, the Les Paul Standard had gone pretty modern. It had weight relief, push-pull pots for coil splits, and a bunch of extra electronics that the user didn't really want or need. The Traditional, on the other hand, stayed old school and kept things much more in line with what people actually wanted out of a classic Les Paul. So as far as specs go, 2013 is one of the very few years that Gibson made the Les Paul Traditional with no weight relief at all. That's a really big deal because it puts this guitar incredibly close to what we now call a Les Paul Standard 50s. Honestly, it's so close that most people wouldn't even know that this is not a Les Paul Standard 50s, unless you were to tell them. This guitar has a true maple cap, traditional wiring, Gibson branded pots, orange drop capacitors. Everything is completely original as far as the electronics go. It's a Heritage Cherry Sunburst model, and I feel like I got really lucky with the top on this one. It's not over the top flame, but there is some very nice grain and movement within the wood. One other thing that's worth mentioning with guitars from this era is fretboard construction. Around the 2011 to 2012 range, some of Gibson's Les Pauls had fretboards made from multiple pieces of rosewood laminated together. This was largely due to poor wood availability at the time. By 2013, all Traditionals seem to be built with proper solid rosewood fretboards, not laminated boards, which is something that a lot of players prefer both for feel and long-term durability. As far as how it plays, it's got a 50s neck, but it's not a massive baseball bat neck. I've played a lot of 50s and 60s standards, and while I usually prefer the slimmer necks, this one's got a really good feel in the hands. To me, it's closer to a 59 neck profile. It fills the hand quite nicely without feeling super chunky or uncomfortable. Pickup wise, it's got a 57 Classic in the neck and a 57 Classic Plus in the bridge. I've owned a few sets of these now, and they're very solid pickups. The bridge pickup is great, it's nice and punchy, and it's really good for rock stuff. The neck pickup, at least where it's sitting right now, is a little bit muddy for my taste. I'd probably lower it to get some softer, clearer neck tones, but it's still a very good pickup. It's just maybe set a bit too high. I've owned this guitar for about 4 or 5 months now, and honestly, it's been fantastic. I sold my Tokai Love Rock, which is a Les Paul copy made by Tokai. It was the made in China model, not a Japanese model, as well as my 2021 Epiphone 1959 reissue to fund this guitar. Funny enough, the Tokai almost completely covered the cost of buying this guitar on its own. I paid $1,750 Canadian for this guitar, which works out to about $1,275 US. After that, I spent another $80 Canadian to have a professional luthier make and install a custom bone nut and help dial in the setup. So all in, I'm sitting at about $1,830 Canadian. And it's set up better than Gibson factory spec. To put that into perspective, a brand new Les Paul Standard 50s in Heritage Cherry Sunburst is $3,799 Canadian before tax. Of course, it depends where you live, but where I live, once you add the tax, that turns into a $4,330 guitar. For me personally, that is a little ridiculous for a Les Paul with standard specs. At that point, I'd rather save a little bit longer and go for a used custom shop. With this guitar, I'm getting everything I want from a Les Paul Standard for less than half the price. There's nothing about it that feels compromised, and honestly, these guitars are really what people should be watching for on the used market. The 2013 Traditionals in particular are just really, really good. It comes with the original Gibson hardcase, which is great quality. I really love the white interior that they've gone with on these cases, and I also have the certificate of authenticity. The original jack plate came inside the case, but it was broken, so it had already had a metal one installed before I bought it. I added strap locks, and I've got a plain black truss rod cover on the way because I prefer the look of that over the Traditional logo. Also, the Traditional logo on my truss rod cover has almost worn off. Just to be clear, this is absolutely a used market guitar. You cannot buy these new anymore. I found mine on Facebook Marketplace, and honestly, that's where some of the best deals are if you're patient and know what you're looking for. To me, there's nothing about this guitar that does not scream 50s standard Les Paul. No weight relief, traditional wiring, great pickups, great neck, great wood, great build quality. If you want a real deal Gibson Les Paul Standard experience without paying the standard money, I honestly don't think it gets much better than the 2013 Traditional. Before we wrap this up, I'm going to give you guys a little playing demo so that you can hear it for yourself. Thanks for watching, and if you've got any questions at all, leave a comment and I'll get back to you. Also, if you guys did enjoy the video, please consider subscribing and dropping a like.